Greetings, family. This is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. I am the founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And, we had was it last night? Today is Friday. Man, it was last night. Last night we had the book club for the book Pure Lust. And the book is great. And the book is triggering. And what ends up happening every time in this book club discussion, no matter how disciplined we say we're going to be, the book and the topics that we're discussing at any given time always bring up something for us that's currently applicable, that's currently important and relevant. I say that because I'm always reminding you that the book was written in 1983. And despite the fact that the book was written in 1983, it is so eerily currently relevant that it always causes us to tailspin off into stories and, deep dives into dissecting what it is she's talking about at any given time. And so last night we were on that call again, man, for 6 hours. But what it does, at least for me, and I would have to have the women who participated or have participated in the book club discussions chime in to say honestly what they are experiencing. But for me, what that reveals the fact that since we started the book club, and we started the book club before the new year, we did 2 sessions before the new year, but because there was so much happening at the beginning of the new year, I was like, towards the end of last year, I was like, I got to pump the brakes on the book club until after the new year. So we picked it back up. But every single solitary time that we have been on the book club calls, the calls have never been the purported 2 hours that they were going to be. I think the shortest period of time we've spent on the call is 4 hours. I think last night was the longest period of time we spent on a call. But what it makes me aware of is the need for these spaces, the need for these kind of deep and engaging discussions on the regular that women rarely have access to in general, and that women of color even more specifically rarely have access to. That's what it's revealing to me, because the women that have so far been making up this book club discussion have been from all over. Most of the women are from the Southeast, from Tennessee, from Texas, from North Carolina, from Arkansas, from the South. There's several women that chime in that are from here in California. There are women that have chimed in, and one woman chimed in a couple of times from India. And so, yeah, these are primarily, not exclusively, but primarily women of color. And these discussions that this book is constantly bringing up, I think just more than anything, just has women really in their feelings, really in their emotions, really beginning to struggle within themselves. Because these are women, most of whom are, pretty progressive, if you will, like pretty deep into their spiritual journey, if you will. Some are political activists. Okay, cool. And I am one of those women who have read Pure Lust and have been thrust into another level of evolution in my understanding. And I feel like I'm pretty motherfucking sharp. And baby, this book has had my head reeling, 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 reeling. You understand? So last night, greetings, Marie. How you doing, my dear? Greetings, Southern French Astrology. How you doing? Baby, that book club last night has had my head reeling all day long. That discussion, that section that we were covering, which was page 54 through 77, baby, I'ma tell you, that shit has had me reeling all day. I've been taking notes straight just from that section. That's the last half of chapter 1 since yesterday morning. Since yesterday morning. And then even still, when we got into the book club, even more was brought out. Even more was even more was brought out. And that's what happens when women get together. I'm a sharp motherfucker. You understand? I'm pretty sharp. But what happens when women get together or people get together? Back in, my time as a revolutionary, they called it iron sharpening iron. You know what I'm saying? You get into a political education and you just deepen and deepen and deepen each other's understanding of what the source of the political education was, right? That's what's happening in this book club, y'all. That's what's happening. And I love to see it. So, like, up until this point, mostly what we have been talking about, mostly what I've been talking about on my channel, is wonderful, deepening your understanding, bridging the gap between politics and sociology and psychology and spirituality. And that shit is great. But we aren't really offered in our daily lives the opportunity to apply the things that I'm teaching, the things that we're learning together. We aren't really offered the opportunity in a big way to, incorporate actionable discernment in the things that we learn and using them in our daily lives, having the ability to test those theories out in our daily lives. And I'm coming to understand through this book club process that that's really not a small piece of the puzzle. It's like the missing link. Barbara Moore talks extensively in The Great Cosmic Mother about the cultural creation of isolation among women, the deliberate and calculated process of breaking up women's circles, destroying women's relationships in a way that permanently destabilized women, permanently handicapped women. She's talking about this a lot. Damn near in every chapter, she goes back to, the forcible, deliberate, calculated, severing of the ties and the bonds among women, and the subsequent impact that it's had on the entire planet. Women living in isolation, women working in isolation, women suffering in isolation. And so that is what Barbara Moore is consistently drawing out in The Great Cosmic Mother. But Mary Daly takes it a step further. She talks about the imposed separation of women, the breaking up of the bonds in the communities of women, and the methodology that is used to ensure that stripping away, that forced isolation is permanent. She's talking about all the time. She is talking about how, like in the last chapter that we were discussing last night, right out the gate, she's talking about how, I always used to joke about it, but without a lot of deep analysis about how rom-coms got us fucked up in the game, how romantic comedies got women out here fucked up in the game, baby. Right? I always used to joke about that. Rom-coms got us messed up, got us out here struggling. You know what I'm saying? in our romantic lives and shit. And Mary Daly reiterated that shit in 1983. She said the way that this institution not only creates isolation for women, but creates these hostily antagonistic relationships among women, what she calls horizontal violence among the race of women. Child, horizontal violence among the race of women. She said fairy tales do that. Um, Romantic comedies do that. What else she say? She listed a whole host of shit that we are constantly ingesting every day that guarantees that not only will women be self-hating, but in their self-hatred will hate other women, and will not only hate other women, but will commit acts of perpetual horizontal violence against other women. Right? And that's what jump started the discussion last night, was horizontal violence among women and how this occurs, how this phenomenon occurs, right? I'm saying this because the title of this pretty short pretty short video that I'm going to do, because I'm going to come back at maybe in about an hour and read Parable of the Sower, but I was in my feelings all day today about that damn book club discussion that we had last night. It's been on me like white on rice all day. Couldn't shake it, couldn't shake it. And I said, okay, well, I went back, and then somebody else commented on one of my videos today. And I make it a ritual, if you will, that anytime somebody comments on my video, I will actually go back and at least watch the first part of that video, because it obviously has something to teach me in the moment. This video that was commented on this morning was 2 years old, 2 years old, almost to the date. And so I was like, okay, let me go back and see what I was talking about. Let me see what I was talking about on this day a couple years back. And that video was affirmative or affirming in many ways. Was affirming in many ways. I'm gonna probably have to stop using StreamYard. This shit is getting out of hand. Where every time I go on StreamYard, I'm getting this lull in my life. Anyway, so yeah, so between that and this long book club discussion we had last night, I went back to Barbara Moore, to the Great Cosmic Mother, because that was the content of the video that was commented on this morning. And I am going to, over the next few days, do like maybe a 10-minute. I'm doing a little overview today because I've just been in my feelings, but I want to do like a 10-minute brief read of the Great Cosmic Mother from the chapter, The Machine, which is the longest chapter in the book. So it'll take me a few days to get through it, doing 10 minutes a day. But that's what this announcement is. I feel like, especially given the conversation we had last night, we have to dig into the machine. We have to dig into the machine. This concept, as laid out by Barbara Moore, is so goddamn eerily currently relevant. So eerily currently relevant, yo. And today I made up my mind that when things calmed down, I was going to read a little bit. So I'm just going to start with the first chapter. I'm going to start at the beginning of The Machine, which I believe is chapter 49. Yeah. I'm going to start with The Machine. I'm going to read through it. I am inclined not to give any commentary, but if spirit moves me, I will. I am inclined not to give commentary, but if she sees fit, then I will. Because this chapter, every time I hear this chapter, I'm just beside myself. It's so crystal clear, but still so bottom of the ocean deep, this chapter. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. For those of you who don't know, I'm Cassandra Faye Floyd. The chapter that I'm reading from this evening for a very short period of time is The Great Cosmic Mother. I want to start doing kind of more in-depth shorts of this book, just reading little excerpts from it, bringing us back to it all the time. The Machine. 3 connected phenomena. I should have got water. 3 connected phenomena are always happening around us in this very modern world of the 1980s. They are: 1, the rise to power of fundamentalist sects, i.e., Christian, Judaic, Islamic, Hindu, Buddhist, and Confucianist or Confucius, and their collusion with business and military dominated governments in directing theological and political attacks at women's rights, in particular, women's right to control our reproductive capacities. 2, the growth the growth and global distribution of reproductive technologies, everything from birth control pills, IUDs, and the coercive sterilization programs dumped on third world women, to the expensive and complex Western technologies of making sterile women pregnant through the transplantation of unfertilized eggs and embryos from the ovaries and wombs of, quote, egg mothers to the wombs of host mothers, and the correlative genetic engineering of embryos to make babies to order. And 3, the spread of American corporate structures and advanced production technologies into global factories where virtually trapped workers, over 80% of whom are women, work and often live behind the barbed wire walls of free trade zones at subsistent level wages, controlled in both work and private life by a corporation government collusion that forbids them union organization or political protest, and often extends to the economic control of their reproductive lives. I hope y'all are following. What did she say in the opening? She's talking about the same wicked trident. I am going to digress. The same wicked trident that I'm always talking about, but I'm always talking about the Roman Catholic Church. You know what I'm saying? And and all of that shit. I'm talking about the religions. Here she is talking about the figurehead being religious institutions at the top, colluding with corporations and military governments. You understand? This is what she's talking about right here. Religious institutions working in collusion with corporations and military governments to control the means of production. What is the means of production being controlled by this institution in this process? What's the means of production being controlled? Well, she's gonna talk about that here in a minute. You understand? So this is the wicked trinity. And in terms of her talking about 80%, the women making up 80% of the world's workers. You understand what I'm saying? And what this results in is not only control of their work life, but their private life, struggling to live on subsistent wages, um, and the corporate government collusion that forbids them to unionize or politically protest, and that collusion often extending to the economic control of their reproductive lives. Follow. She says, i.e., multinational corporations give preferential employment to single women without children and with no plans to have children. In India's textile industry, employers prefer women who have been sterilized through the government's population control program. And in the Bhutan export processing zone in the Philippines, the Mattel company offers prizes to women workers making toys and Barbie dolls who undergo sterilization. These three trends might seem disconnected, even sometimes publicly antagonistic. You hear me? Even sometimes publicly putting on a show of being antagonistic. But in truth, they are profoundly linked. Their linkage can be traced back to the Bronze Age, to the practical beginnings of patriarchy at the end of the Neolithic Age, when men first began to organize and gain systemic control over one, women's production, and two, women's reproduction. Now, in this 2 paragraphs, she done took us all the way. She done showed us right now today what the fucking problem is and quickly points the line back to the origin of this problem. She says that during the Bronze Age, which came at the end of the Neolithic, men first began to organize to gain systematic control over one, women's production, and two, women's reproduction. This is the origin. This is the essence. This is the beginning of every single thing identifiable as a problem in the modern world. Let's go. As we have said, the definition of the female body under patriarchy, y'all ain't ready, corresponds to the definition of the worker's body under private capitalist, i.e., American, or state capitalist, i.e., the Soviet Union, productive systems. At the beginning of the Bronze Age patriarchy, males began to take over women's ancient inventions and improving them, i.e., capitalizing them by turning rhythmic, local, qualitative handcraft work into quantitative, mechanized mass production for trade and the building of wealth. Simultaneously, patriarchal men moved to take over and improve, i.e., capitalize the most primal production. Listen, the most primal production of all, the female's production of children, modeling their religious and practical notions on their new experience of cattle breeding. Men redefined the ontologically and autonomously creative female body into a machine for producing wealth. That is, wealth for men via the patriarchal family in the form of children as inheritors of patrilineal controlled property, and children who could be used to make more wealth as workers or traded for wealth in the form of female bodies traded as wives. Patriarchal religion grew side by side with patriarchal wealth and secular power. Can I repeat that? Patriarchal religions grew side by side with patriarchal wealth and secular power. The Father God's male priesthoods have always rationalized and sacralized the pastoralistic control with pastoralistic control and use of women's bodies as wealth breeding machines, simultaneous with cattle breeding, spiritually programming generations of both women and men to believe that God was now a male who wanted it this way. the Neolithic goddess religions that had supported female sexual autonomy, female control over both sexual pleasure and reproduction, were religiously demonized and politically destroyed. With the growth and elaboration of tribes into nations and into empires, structural systemic control of female reproduction passed from the private hands of fathers and husbands into the functional machinery of the state political economies. Male rulers attempted, at least, to regulate populations according to the state and business fluctuations, the need for increase or decrease in labor forces and armies, for more consumers of surplus or fewer consumers of famine, etc. Did y'all hear what I just said? That what you think are moralistic questions, moralistic issues that you must go and vote on are not moralistic issues at all. The fervor and the enthusiasm through which these people, male and female, beat you over the head about the reproductive rights and autonomy of women, to guilt you, to shame you, to terrorize you, to harm you, to imprison you around the question of where does life begin, and the poor embryos who are real humans, and all of this bullshit is about national, gross domestic product. She says it right here. The question of women's autonomy, historical right, reproductive rights to set the terms for and to choose when and when they do not give life, that shifted into patriarchal control, which was for the expressed purpose, the sole singular purpose of the creation of wealth for males, period. That's it. And what they did was win the collusion of males who were previously in harmonious relationship with their indigenous counterparts, now become one child, spiritually one, to collude with the oppressor in the oppression and the exploitation of their indigenous partner. She said this shit has always, since the Bronze Age, since the takeover of female labor and females' original labor, which is the reproduction of life, children, that since the Bronze Age, these systems of control did one thing. One, they won men to the process, the passing of female reproduction in the private hands of fathers and husbands, and also from that process leading women into the functional machinery of state political economies. Male rulers always attempt to regulate the human population. People are talking about population control, but they got the shit fucked up. They got it backwards. Their conspiracy theories about population control, the reasons behind the need of population control. One rich guy saying that the planet is overpopulated. One rich guy saying, oh my God, the population is down. It is all these discussions about population, whether we're overpopulated or underpopulated, is based on wealth acquisition. That's it. That's all. Control. What does controlling the means of production mean? Socialists always be talking about the proletariat in arms and the changing of the hands, the changing of hands of the means of production. Now, unlike capitalism, the means of production is in the hands of those who create wealth, who create all wealth. Baby, you'll be missing a huge ass chunk of the goddamn picture. That the creators of the means of production, The creators of the means of production are women having children. This is the first labor. This is the first labor, is women having children, is producing human beings under any society. So producing human beings under a capitalist society automatically makes these human beings commodities of that society. And it would be no different under a socialist society. They are reduced, quote, to the workers. That's all they're here for, is to labor for the proletariat state. And y'all both missing the boat, but deliberately, because it is about the control of female production and female reproduction for the sole purpose of the acquisition of wealth. The creation and acquisition of wealth. That's it. She says, so to regulate populations according to, listen, they will regulate. How do they regulate populations? She said to regulate populations according to state and business fluctuations, the need for increase or decrease in the labor forces and armies, for consumers of surplus or fewer consumers of famine. These are the things that will dictate what the language looks like in the media, what the language looks like politically, to get you emotionally and morally involved in this question about reproductive rights and abortion and all of that shit. Here's she's saying, these discussions that are based in wealth, that are based in capital, that are based in the commodification of human beings, that's all it is. It is an economic question, an economic drive. Where it becomes a political issue is when they use politics partnered in collusion with religious ideology and morality to browbeat you into complicity, to have more babies or to not have more babies, based on what? State and business fluctuation that yields, that determines whether they need to increase the population because they need more people to be up in the army and in the factories, or they need an increase in the population because they got all this surplus that they need somebody's hard-earned energy to create the resources to buy, or a decrease in the population because now there's not enough to go around in times of famine. All these moralistic conversations happen about this bullshit, all these regulations, people, this discussion about Alabama and goddamn embryos and shit. This motherfucker is just 2 years ago. Overturning Roe versus Wade has nothing to do with moralisms, have nothing to do with these dudes in positions of power, white males in positions of power dominating this country, and some moral conviction that they have about the poor unborn babies. It ain't got nothing to do with it. They are lobbied. They are won politically by corporations to drive home harder the discussion about abortion, about life, about all of this shit. Why? If female reproduction of real life, if female reproduction of human life is the first labor of human beings, female reproduction of real life is the first labor, then what does that mean? It is the first labor that happened under matriarchal society. And the greatest challenge to the state, the greatest challenge to the corporations, the greatest challenge to the church and its ideologies working in collusion with the state and these goddamn corporations, is women having the full and total primordial power of God on earth to determine whether or not the petitioner has a right to live. She, to be able to have an abortion, gives the woman the ultimate power that males have always sought, but through warfare, through rituals of war, is how they have power over life and death. Through rituals of war is how they have power over life and death. It is through the primordial rituals of menstruation and pregnancy that a woman can determine for herself as God to this entity that is petitioning her to live. She can say, yes, you can come through me, or no, you're going to have to come back next go round. You're going to have to try somebody else. The ontological power over life and death is something that none of these institutions can afford. Because if women begin to say no to childbearing, that's why all the dogma exists, to have women out here feeling like the only way that they can be valid as human beings on earth is to bear children. And so they will put their bodies through hell and high water to have as many children as possible, not knowing that they have fallen victim to an old ass sleight of hands that has turned her literally into a mechanized breeding machine, whose sole purpose is to breed functionaries that can continue the exploitation of the many. That's it. They either going to be in the military, they either going to work in the factory, they're going to have some other bullshit ass job for 40 years that extracts the literal essence out of them. They're going to be some artist who is propagating the ideas of old. They're going to be some rapper propagating the ideas of old. What else they going to be? They're going to work for the state. They're going to become priests. That's it. Those are the options. You understand how fucking deep this shit is? Anyway, for over 4,000 years now, female reproduction has not been an autonomous function of women, but an auxiliary function of patriarchal systems. And for the same time period, worker production has functioned as a part of the same patriarchal, hierarchic, wealth-producing machinery. Both female reproduction and worker production being rationalized and reified by God, i.e., religious dogmas of priesthoods and theologians, as subsidiary and inferior functions of that wealth-producing system. They are subsidiary and inferior functions in the sense that they are disempowered, many controlled by the system to benefit the empowered few. As far as wealth production or actual value goes, females and workers are, of course, not subsidiary or inferior in any way, but primary producers of all wealth on earth from the beginning of time to the end. Everything that has value on earth was created by the workers, by human beings, placing their hands on earth in some way and transforming that element of earth into a product that can be used by the many. That's it. That simple. The other ideological occupations contribute to the sustaining of the health and the housing of the worker. The teacher gives skills to the worker. So they don't put their hands on anything in society to generate and construct wealth, but they contribute to the production of wealth. How? Because they teach skills to the workers that will eventually become children, who will eventually become the producers. Doctors are not producers. They are not workers in the sense that they do not put their hands on something in nature like the carpenter does, like the auto mechanic does, like you know what I'm saying? Like the herbalist does. The doctor doesn't do that. But what he does do in his role as doctor is contribute minimally to the worker's health. I'm telling you, this is ideology. This is socialist ideology. This is not my conjecture. This is socialist ideology. The role of the doctor in a capitalist society is to provide the minimal quality of health to keep the worker just functioning optimally enough to sustain his job in the factory or whatever area in life that he is producing wealth. You feel me? So these ideological jobs and occupations still function to support in some way, to contribute in some way to the life of the producer, to the life of the worker, to the life of the actual person on the ground that creates every goddamn ounce of wealth that exists on earth. You feel me? And so, let's see. Yes, She says, as far as wealth production or actual value goes, females and workers. And when we talking about the working class, because you socialists are still so fucking male centric in your thinking, in your understanding of Marxist Leninist theory and socialist ideology, you're still so male centered in your goddamn ideology and understanding. Right now, today, as it was 140 years ago during the Soviet Revolution, 83% of the workers of the proletariat are female. 83% around the world. And what we call the so-called third world, 83% of the producers on the goddamn planet are female, whose wealth has been extracted and stolen. Because let me just go on and read. So she says, as far as wealth production and actual value goes, females and workers are, of course, not subsidiary or inferior in any way, but primary producers of all wealth that exists. In both cases, worker production and female reproduction, wealth is produced for the dominant males or the dominating male system with its auxiliary wives by organizing what was once organically rooted sexual spiritual activity, talking about the act of reproduction, what was rooted in sexual spiritual activity into coerced mechanical reproductive activity. The cyclic dance of impassioned bodies is forcibly and moralistically restructured into the chain gang of numbed bodies, forming an assembly line or a maternity ward. Human biological and dream energies, once numinous ends in themselves, are co-opted and rechanneled into profit-making results via a collusion of religious and governmental political ideologies that manipulate the body and the spirit of the human away from conditions or experiences of evolutionary, revolutionary ecstasy and into conditions and experiences of counter-evolutionary, revolutionary, productive repression. Both worker production and female reproduction are controlled and directed by the same forces: sexual, spiritual, ideological systems of piety and drudgery. For those who don't know what piety is, it's like the concept of piety is like the devout Catholic, the female devout Catholic who moves through life unquestioning and unconcerned. She doesn't question. She just what? You just have to have faith. Even as shit is falling apart around you, and you see all kind of radical and unbelievable crimes committed by the same institution that you hold dear to, you just got to have faith. Piety is unquestioning, unchallenging, like the spirit of servitude or submissiveness. You don't question. It is the way that it is. That's piety. Drudgery is long, hard, laborious, brain-numbing work. That's what drudgery is. See how they work together? Piety and drudgery. It is characterized by hard, long, laborious, brain-numbing work. That's drudgery. So she says that both worker production and female reproduction are controlled and directed by the same forces: sexual, spiritual, ideological systems of piety and drudgery, which are themselves teleological machines producing just enough energy to rationalize themselves automatically while maintaining themselves in power. Piety and drudgery reinforce each other by dogmatically, physically, and habitually repressing energy to a mere subsistent level. A mere subsistent level. What does that mean? A subsistent level that is capable only of piety and drudgery. I.e., incapable of the revolutionary ecstasy or creativity necessary to escape the subsistence level system. And piety and drudgery is the normative state of being in which females and workers have been kept under patriarchy for at least 4,000 years. What she's talking about here is how this shit is so goddamn draining that it allows you just enough energy to continue to move on the wheel. That's all. You can't think deep. You can't analyze. You can't philosophize. You can't go out into the field for a whole day and look at the sun and contemplate the meaning of the class. You can't do shit. You have just enough energy to go back to work. You have just enough psychic energy to think about how you're going to meet your quota of production. You have just enough energy to make sure you pick up your kids from school, but not enough energy to show them deep, enriched, passionate love that stimulates their spirit. You can kiss them goodnight, kiss them in the morning when they wake up. If you're lucky, pack them a motherfucking lunch, tell them be good at school, ask them how much homework you got, give them an hour worth of TV before it's time to do that shit again. Understand? Finally, this condition is the result of the Bronze Age patriarchal redefinition of the female body from an organic, autonomous creator. From an organic, autonomous creator to a male-controlled breeding machine. Technological or systematic ideological control of human labor could never exist if control of female reproductive labor did not pre-exist. You heard? Tell me you heard. Tell me you heard. What'd she just say? She said, you motherfuckers out here complaining about the exploitation of the proletariat, the exploitation of the working class, but you still are male-centered in your ideological thinking and cannot understand why in 140 years, the socialist movement has made no great leaps forward for humanity. All the wonderful scientific explanations of how to execute a successful revolutionary struggle, and we ain't won shit. We ain't won a motherfucking thing. Every single where you go in the world that has won at least a little bit of a revolutionary struggle, look at their motherfucking conditions today and tell me they won a goddamn revolutionary struggle under socialist ideology. Because you can't tell me that socialism hasn't failed every fucking where that it was used as the guiding theory to supposedly liberate people. Every the fuck where you go on earth. I'm telling you, you can't name a place that has executed a communist or socialist revolution where the people are not suffering more, possibly, than they were before the goddamn revolution. But we can't have an honest conversation about the failure of socialist ideological theory because we've only been given two options. You're either a socialist or a capitalist. That's it. So it hog ties us into this shit that we can't change because we can't visualize anything outside of socialism and capitalism, or Democratic or Republican or whatever the fuck. You motherfuckers talking about the working class, the working class, the working class, the working class. You are participating in the reduction of the significance of what it means to be a human when you reduce human beings to fucking producers for the state. Whether the state is a socialist state or a communist state or a capitalist state, human beings are not chunks of moving animated flesh whose sole purpose is to generate and produce wealth for the group or for others. So I reject that shit. I reject the idea, the reduction of the human energy, the human spirit entity to fucking the working class. I am not the working class. My mother is not the working class. And the thing that has you stalemated in that position, those of you who continue to call yourself socialists, the thing that has you in a stalemate, bitch, is this sentence right here. You cannot get past your penis. You can't move past your penis. You can't move past your penis. Politically, you can't move past your penis. Spiritually, you can't move past your penis. Politically, economically, socially, that's your stalemate, bitch. You can't move past your penis. And so those people who are in proximity to you, who care about your fucking life as a male, will always be hogtied to this bitch because y'all can't move past your penis. That's some hard shit to swallow, I know. Because the world has revolved around your penis your whole life. You have been primed through these institutions, these collusive institutions. You have been taught since you were an infant, baby, that the world does belong to you, that you are entitled to the world. Because you have a penis. That's all that was required at birth for you to have a right to own everything you see that exists. Yes, even colonized men have bought into that shit. Yes, even oppressed men have bought into that shit. Your penis has perpetually stayed in the way. You understand? It is more eloquently put by this person, Barbara Moore, as the following: technological and systemic ideological control of human labor, period, could not exist if the Bronze Age established patriarchal control of female reproductive labor did not pre-exist. Bitch, you all got a mama. What does that mean? You all got a mama. You all got a mama. That's what that means. That means if you are oppressed as the proletariat, that means if you are oppressed as the working class, that means if you are oppressed as some human trafficked individual somewhere, if you are born into the poor class and cannot figure out why you have no social mobility, it is because your mother existed in that same scenario. It is because you got a mama. And her mama, and her mama, and her mama, and her mama, and her mama before, all the way back to the beginning of the establishment of patriarchal systems, which was in the Bronze Age. About 4,000 years of mamas being controlled and manipulated by ideologies that have them submit to control as fucking birthing machines, and their value always squarely placed in their proximity and ability to bear children. I mean, damn, all you got to do, and I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't just in fucking Europe, like a lot of you African romantics be putting out. That shit didn't just happen in fucking Europe. It was most pronounced in European history, but it didn't just happen in Europe, bitch. It happened in Asia, it happened in the Americas, and it happened in fucking Africa too. Yes, the fuck it did. Patriarchy did not emerge in Europe. It was happening simultaneously throughout the known world. Now, that's a discussion that we can have later about how astrology, how astrological phenomena impact the real material world. Because we were looking at the end, with the emergence of patriarchy, we were looking at the end of the last air sign, the last age in an air sign, which was Gemini. This is the time. This is around the end, the very end of the age of Gemini, as we were transitioning into the age of Taurus. The slow origins of patriarchy, and then it peaking or being personified in the transition from the age of Taurus to the age of Aries. Your Bible tells you so if you know how to read it. Your Bible walks you through that whole history if you know how to read it. You understand? This was happening all over the planet. Everybody get all romantic. Be talking about how patriarchy wouldn't exist if white power didn't exist. Bullshit. That's a lie straight out of hell, straight out of mythological hell. You feel me? If you do not know the origins of things, you will never transform your circumstances. And to know the origin of things is to know that the oppression that you experience as the so-called working class, as the so-called proletariat right now, has its origins in the what's the word I'm looking for? In the domination of female reproductive labor first. The control of the reducing. This is why goddess theory is so important, because goddess theory isn't some mythological shit that exists in fucking space somewhere. It is tied to a very real social, political, and economic history on the ground, and how that That idea in the mind of the goddess and goddess worshiping translated to human relationships, and how those human relationships translated to how humans were fed, how babies were cared for. That's why it's important to have this conversation politically, because y'all will stay missing the boat. Y'all will stay missing the boat. You understand? So if the origin of all oppression is the slow emergence of patriarchy to finally consolidate its hold on the production of wealth for private ownership, which came when he was finally able to subdue the image of the goddess in people's consciousness and erect a solar deity as the center of all creation, as the center of all religions across the globe. North America, South America, Central America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. Simultaneously around the world, the solar deity was being erected and raised up over the mother that was slain by her son. And this is how it translates politically. When the mother and the image of the mother and the consciousness of the whole planet was finally subdued, finally murdered, now there is a justification for the imprisonment of, the enslavement of, the subduing of, the reduction of the mother to a machine, just like the cow that had been bred, that gave rise to patriarchy in the first place. That's why she called a heifer. Her value was tied to her ability to reproduce more flesh for the fucking machine, bitch. That's all. And so you still got women on freaking YouTube and social media, sick as they are, propping up the need for women to be more traditional and have more babies and be submissive to their husbands and shit. Sick as they are. Men who make demands of such madness. I want a submissive wife, you know what I'm saying? I need a motherfucker who gonna rub my feet when I come home from work. You feel me? And even though I ain't really making a lot of money, two opposite end contributors to the same oppressive madness. You begin to participate in your own oppression because the ideas in your mind have taught you to do so. How? Because of the constant, unending, no breaks in conditioning of fashioning of your brain to accept, what have I been talking to y'all about for the last 2 weeks? To accept that your lot in life is to be the permanent, unending recipients of pain and suffering, and to accept the dissemination of said pain and suffering from those who have a closer proximity to the image of this fictitious God. I'm gonna tell you. Anyway, you understand? She said, technological and systemic ideological control of human labor could not exist if control of female reproductive labor did not pre-exist. If you a socialist, if you a proletariat, if you a communist, bitch, raise women up in positions of ultimate leadership in your organization and let them direct this goddamn machine to end capitalism. Outside of that, you ain't winning shit. And the evidence is 140 years of goddamn socialism ain't one bit shit. Ain't one nobody nothing. What you think you the one with one hand, they done took that shit back times 10. The wage gap between the wealthy and the poor is larger now than it ever has been. Bitch, what you done won? What you done won? God damn it. Because you cannot see outside of dichotomies. You can't see outside of left or right. You can't see outside of red or blue. You can't see outside of you understand? Anyway, for control of organic, autonomous female reproduction is structurally necessary to create the mechanical state of piety and drudgery out of the repressed the repressed sexual spiritual energies. The repression of sexual and spiritual energy is the suppression of what? All potentialities is laid dormant in the suppressed sexual spiritual energy that exists in every human being. That's why, listen, that's why you be hearing shit about how sex outside of marriage is evil. It's sinful. Lusting in your heart, you might as well have committed the sin. That's why what's another one? Child, the repressed sexual spiritual energies. Listen, i.e., all machines, including mechanizations, need fuel. And all fuel is originally organic energy. The subsistent level machinery of piety and drudgery is fueled by the repressed energies of orgasmic sexual ecstasy and spiritual epiphany. Working labor can only be controlled and exploited in a situation where female reproductive labor is equally controlled and exploited. Because both exploitations are necessary to keep the exploitative machinery running. And female reproductive labor, chronologically and ontologically, is the first labor. Chronologically and ontologically, female reproductive labor is the first labor. They cannot take over their own reproductive systems. They are kept to, listen, talking about the people, talking about the victims of the system. They cannot take over their own productive and reproductive systems. They are kept too busy and too tired functioning at the subsistence level of mechanical piety and drudgery. In terms of evolutionary biology and of yoga, one could say that large masses of people are being forcibly retained and maintained at the level of the reptilian brain, the brain of ritualized repetition, baby, and benumbed violence. Kundalini is not allowed by primally moral restrictions to rise up and illuminate this situation for the masses. Indeed, the reptile brain is kept strangely hypnotized from the outside by mass-produced dreams and commercial hallucinations of transcendence. The luminosity is on the entertainment screen, while the evolutionary brain sits in darkness, held hostage. What does all this mean in relation to today's world and the three interlinked phenomena previously mentioned? First, everywhere in the world, governments are trying desperately to control and channel their populations to meet the economic pressures being put on them by the spread of global corporate developmental enterprise, especially the strain of domestic economies being deformed and de-energized by the enormous drain of military budgets. Pages of statistics exist to illustrate this phenomenon, but what it really means is billions of female wombs. God damn it. Listen. Y'all ain't in the room. Y'all ain't in the motherfucking room, y'all. Hey, y'all ain't in the room. Because this shit is like getting repeatedly punched in the face. Repeatedly punched in the jaw. Over the fuck over and over again. She says, pages of statistics exist to illustrate this phenomenon. But what it really means is billions of female wombs and ovaries are being directly manipulated by their governments. Listen, y'all. Listen, y'all. Listen, y'all. But it really means billions of female wombs and ovaries are being directly manipulated by their governments and rarely in the interest of the women involved. Government heads are seeking to increase or decrease populations in the interest of their own political careers and or to meet the demands of the global corporate investors. Now, we had this long ass conversation last night in the book club about how we got it wrong about the Matrix. I talk to y'all about this all the time. That's why I keep telling y'all this chapter called Machine, this chapter was talking about the Matrix, but we had it wrong, baby. The Matrix was not the dream world. What did she say about the reptilian brain right here? What she said about the reptilian brain? How the entertainment, how the moralisms, how the spiritual dogmas, how the repetitious activity of fucking labor, what? Mass-produced dreams and commercial hallucinations fake you into believing that you are transcendent or being illuminated on the TV screen, holding the evolutionary process hostage, right? What is she talking about? Honey, the Matrix wasn't about the dream world created to keep the people peaceful so that their essence could be drained from them as fuel for the machine. That wasn't what the Matrix was. The Matrix wasn't the machine. The Matrix wasn't the machine. The Matrix wasn't created by the robots. That wasn't what the Matrix was. The Matrix was butt naked and in real time, in plain sight, and we looked right by it because we were told what the Matrix was. What the Matrix was when Neo woke his punk ass up. He woke up in a black womb. He woke up in a black metal womb, and when he sat up with them umbilical cords still attached to his ass, he looked around and saw a whole field of faceless, nameless, inanimate black wombs who housed the entire human population. White, black, red, yellow, brown. Is metal usually black? Couldn't they have just made it regular silver metal? Or was that done intentionally? This dude woke up in a black metal womb and looked out to see an endless field of black metal wombs holding all of humanity hostage within itself forcibly by the machines who reduced the womb into a machine for the sole purpose of exploiting her children. That's what the Matrix was. She's saying it right here in this book. How the removal of sexual energy, the removal and the subduing of spiritual ecstasy transforms living organisms into machines, barely able to survive. Enough health, enough intellect, enough know-how, enough, I'm gonna tell y'all, we had this whole long conversation last night. The field of psychology plays right into this shit. Teaching you to be just emotionally functional enough, just emotional, manipulating you. Teaching you to be just emotionally functional enough, just to be enough sane enough to carry out your fucking work day. To treat you and manipulate you into believing that something is inherently wrong with you because you are experiencing all these cascade of emotions in response to the environment around you, in response to your perception of everything wrong with the fucking planet. There ain't no way that this shit makes sense. The world that we live in, the world constructed for us to live in, the world that justifies pain and suffering, the receiving of pain and suffering, and legitimates and absolves the disseminators of pain and suffering. Everything in you is raging, attempting to rage the fuck out of control. That's what psychological disease is in a world that is fucked up. It is your natural inclination to rage the fuck out in opposition to the shit you are experiencing. And here comes jolly old psychology to walk in and tell you that everything that you're experiencing is some inherent weakness of yours. some inherent flaw of yours, some miscommunication in your perception of the world around you, that all you have to do is think happy thoughts and you will be happy. All you have to do. I know some of y'all going to be upset with me about that. And I myself have in the past, solicited the advice of therapists. I am not condemning therapists. I am saying that the origin of all of these institutions serves one purpose: to look at the history of the emergence of psychology and attempt to separate it from its expression today. We just had a conversation last night because I adamantly believe that a lot of what we are calling behavioral and learning disabilities in young people is the deliberate, systematic suppression of what may very well be the next stage in human evolution. And because these religions are all opposed to evolution, it's in their dogma, it's in their doctrine. Because these religions are opposed to evolution, and these religions have to be opposed to evolution, because for them to co-sign on evolution is to accept and to co-sign on the need for human evolution. The signs of human evolution: us, our mind attempting to thrive, attempting to break free while being held captive by dogmas, by laws that justify pain and suffering while simultaneously absolving the disseminators of pain and suffering. This shit is deep. Anyway, as we have seen, I think this is the last little bit I'm gonna read. As we have seen, a corporation. Let's see, am I gonna? No, I'm not gonna read that part. I'm gonna skip that part. In all cases, whether the plan is to increase or decrease populations, the governmental political control of women's reproduction is directly related to the control of the labor force. In all cases, whether the plan is to increase or decrease populations, the governmental political control of women's reproduction is directly related to the control of the labor force. In particular, since women workers compose at least 80% of the light assembly workforce in the global free trade zones, multinational corporations preferentially employ women workers with the collusion of the host government. With the collusion of the host government, they can pay women lower wages and be also assured a docile population of workers conditioned by generations of religious social customs to obey males in authority and to engage in long hours of boring, repetitive work without complaint, i.e., women workers trained in piety and drudgery. On a global scale, therefore, it is no longer possible to speak of a labor force separate from women workers. And by the same token, it is no longer possible to analyze the management of labor production separately from the management of female reproduction. If y'all don't come on in the room and act like you heard the word, the scripture I'm giving y'all right now. The scripture I'm giving y'all right now. They are fast becoming one and the same. To control female reproduction and women's rights globally is necessary to control the rights of labor populations globally, and vice versa. And the free trade zones are the spearheads or experimental models of this total global control, with repressions of unions and political activity, along with the forced and coerced sterilization of women workers already built into their structures. As Anna Fuentes and Barbara Henreich point out in Women in the Global Factory, quote, crudely put, the relationship between many third world governments and multinational corporations is like that of a pimp and his customers. The governments advertise their women, sell them, and keep them in line for the multinational Johns, end quote. Now, this book was written in 1987, where she is talking about the, at that time, 1987, the emerging global economy, right? Of these global corporations. This book could have been written today, published today. They do this with the help of funding received from the World Bank. Let me stop, because she just talked about, crudely put, the relationship between many third world governments and multinational corporations is like that of a pimp and his customers. But what she did not add is the relationship between the third world governments and the multinational corporations. There's something missing. These third world governments are dictated and influenced by whatever their cultural, spiritual, religious dogma is dominant in the area. It's not just the third world governments. It is the corresponding, colluding spiritual, religious ideology. Tell me I'm wrong. Name a place and tell me I'm wrong. Because I told y'all this a few weeks ago. Because these governments rely on, through collusion, rely on these religious dogmas that make perpetual slaves out of their female population, that justify crimes against females and children, that justify the exploitation of labor, wages, and wealth of their lowest class citizens. And then they collude in this wicked relationship of pimp and John with the multinational corporations. That part right there, she's been talking about it through the whole thing, but that little section right there by the quote by Ann Fuentes and Barbara Enright, they missed the key component. This ideology that emerged as a weapon. These religions emerged as a political and economic weapon, always justifying the theft of wealth, the imbalance of wealth, the crimes by the wealthy against the poor, you name it. They do this with the help of funding received from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, which approve and bankroll this global arrangement between, quote, Pimp and John. In an arrangement by which both the world's female population and the world's labor population are legally laid out for sexual economic use via the political and religious laws and customs of their home countries. Actual sexual coercion happens frequently in the free trade zones, as it always happened to women on the job, with male bosses trading continued employment for sexual favors on the work tables. But the major sexual control and exploitation is and will be a total control of female reproduction by way of the workplace, i.e., via the economic, political needs and manipulations of the multinational corporations. Indigenous male governments, listen. Indigenous male governments worldwide. To maintain themselves in funds and power, seem generally willing to loan out the bodies and lives of their female populations in this prostitutional way. So I'm going to tell you, I'm always telling you, multiple things can be true at the same time. Multiple things can be true at the same time. So we see in our hemisphere, at least, we see in the world, right, that the personification of patriarchy in this period, I always make that distinction because y'all stay wanting to say that patriarchy is a European invention, and no, the fuck it ain't. I'm sorry, no, the fuck it ain't. So I understand and recognize and accept that the face of global patriarchy in this period in human history is white and male. However, simultaneously with the expression of patriarchy being white and male dominating the world right now, how many motherfucking colored patriarchs around the globe are in active, willing, enthusiastic collusion with the shit? And we always want to stay talking about the white people this, the white people this, the white people this. That's not to let them off the hook, to still acknowledge that too many men of color, too many indigenous men, too many previously colonized men are willing, active, enthusiastic participants, colluding with the face of patriarchy right now, which is white supremacy. White supremacy is the current face of global patriarchy. But too many men of color collude, baby. And that is the only explanation that's the only way to explain why the third world looks the way the third world looks. Y'all don't want to have that conversation. Y'all do not want to have the conversation about why Africa looks the way that it looks right now. It could not look the way that it looks right now. It could never have looked the way that it looks right now if there was not a large population of the indigenous males in that population willing to sell out the clique for their own personal benefit. And that's everywhere. They ain't just black folks. There are Uncle Toms that come in every color. Show is. There's sellouts that come in every race, in every shade, baby, from every nation, colluding with the dominant presentation of patriarchy in this age, in this period, in this time, which is white and male. She said it. Too many indigenous governments. I was just talking to them last night about Thomas Sankara, giant that he was, hero that he was, the upright man of Burkina Faso, and the radical, wonderful, extraordinary, ahead of his time work that he did when he seized power in Burkina Faso. He shut down the borders. He's like, we ain't buying shit from nobody and we ain't selling shit from nobody. We got everything we need right here within our borders. Banned the import of foreign made clothes. Y'all all gonna only wear African made clothes. Banned child marriages ahead of his curve. Banned female genital mutilation ahead of his time. You understand? Shit. Thomas Sankara. We talking about him last night. The upright citizen. The man with a true vision for what liberation looked like on the continent. And do you know that it was not simply white people that killed Thomas Sankara? It was the freaking Negro chiefs mad about the fact that he banned child marriages. Angry about the power they perceived they no longer had because he wanted African women to be full participatory citizens of Burkina Faso. Well, if women are full participatory citizens of Burkina Faso, that means we as chiefs ain't got the same level of power that we had before over their girl children, over their daughters. He said free education to every woman in Burkina Faso. If the woman has children and she wants to join the military, her children will be completely cared for by the state. That's what he did. That's what he did. And even the previously warring Negro chiefs, those chiefs at odds with each other, they could come together on this. Oh, this nigga got to go. Women can be free in Burkina Faso. Ban child marriages in the tradition of female genital mutilation. Who does this nigga think he is? And so as soon, I think it was it the French? Raheem, who was Burkina Faso colonized by? Who was the colonizing country of Burkina Faso? I want to say, or Abasi, you tell me. Who was the colonizing country of Burkina Faso? Was it France or was it Portugal? It was France. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. So he said, look, we ain't selling, they ain't coming to take our cotton no motherfucking more. Burkina Faso's leading export at the time was its cotton, world renowned, best cotton. And it was highly sought after in the European fashion market. He's like, they ain't getting shit and we ain't buying shit from them. We're going to produce for ourselves. We are going to generate the wealth that is inherent in the land of Burkina Faso. We are going to sell only on the terms that we set. If I catch anybody wearing American-made blue jeans, foreign-made T-shirts, I'm gunning for you. He banned. He was like, fuck that. He banned wearing un-African clothes. If it wasn't produced by the hands of some African, we ain't wearing it. That's what he said. And through the collusion of, under the guise of religious dogma, doctrine, and tradition, these Negroes band together in bed with the French to slay him. That's what they did. And that story is repeated over and over and over and over again, all over the goddamn continent of Africa, throughout the continent of South America, throughout the continent of Central America, throughout the tribes of the indigenous population right here in the United States. They will always be able to find somebody to betray, especially enthusiastically betray their indigenous counterpart females, to betray the crew for their own personal self-interest and gain. That's the only way there is a third world that exists in the first place. The IMF and the World Bank, these global cartels, these damn missionaries could not have the impact that they have had without some level of complicity in and enthusiastic participation in by indigenous men who have, again, baby, drank the Kool-Aid. That's right, Abasi. That's right, Abasi. My homeboy, we got to get this on the shirt. You feel me? Abasi say has always said, as long as I know this African, we always one nigga away from freedom. There's always somebody going to be able to, there's always going to be somebody that's going to step forward, to step ahead of our evolutionary leap forward, of our successful liberation struggles. There's always going to be somebody willing and enthusiastically capable of sabotaging the future for those in power. Always. That's in everybody, from everybody. Even white people got them. What white people call they Uncle Tom, they call them Benedict Arnolds. You understand? They traitors, they call them Benedict Arnolds. We all got them. And to take that out of, I just appreciate this chapter so much. I appreciate how eloquently, how seamlessly she weaves the connection all the time, back and forth between these three sides of this wicked triangle. Because this concept of church and state has had us perpetually confused. There is no separation of church and state nowhere on earth. Even those countries whose leading religious ideology is not Christian, there is no separation of church and state. These religious ideologies inform political policy and behavior, inform economic structures and social systems. India is a prime example. Isn't it interesting that Hinduism starts out as a matriarchal ideology, a matriarchal spiritual system, and slowly but surely over time, with the invasion first by the Aryans and subsequently the invasion by the Brits, slowly transforming the stories of the deity to the point that now Hinduism is a patriarchal social ideology, religious ideology that justifies caste systems, that justifies the murder of babies, because we know about China's female infanticide, infant female infanticide, right? Female infanticide. We know about China's. That was all on full display. India experienced the same period of time, almost 50 years of female infanticide. Don't nobody say nothing about it. These ideologies informing policy, economic policy, political policy that always rain hell down on females, down on children, always, and always justify the hell rain down. And the darker of those females, the darker of those children, the more hell they receive, i.e., the untouchables in India. Castes could not exist. Economic, philosophical, political castes could not exist without religious philosophy being the underpinning justification for those goddamn systems. You understand? Oh, yes. Honey Dip Chocolate talked about the South Korean female infanticide. A whole lot of shit happened in South Korea that we don't talk about. Right? And so, yeah, I didn't mean to go off like that, but that's what it is. Right? She says, yes, in a prostitutional way. This is the last paragraph I'm going to read, and I'm going to let y'all go. And what about the populations of these countries? Unfortunately, many of them can find what about the male populations of these countries? Unfortunately, many of them can find employment only in the National Guards or in the police forces. And in these occupations, they are frequently sent to work against the women workers, to break up labor sit-ins and organizational meetings, to destroy and punish any attempt on the part of female employees to form active unions or engage in political protest. It is the classical imperialist maneuver to dominate a people by turning a sufficient number of indigenous males into armed guards, policing and terrorizing their own people, in particular, the indigenous women. This diverting of sexual energy from, listen, thus diverting sexual energy from revolution into repression. Oh my God. Listen. Hold on. Listen. Y'all can stick with me if you want to. Y'all don't have to. I know I've been here on long. I'm still gonna read. Classic labor organization strategy, long dominated by males, has been reluctant to consider the political importance of working women's issues and has been contemptuous of the theory put forth by some socialist and Marxist women that female productive and reproductive labor is the primary producer of wealth on earth. Listen, you hear what she just said? That when socialist Marxist women attempt to raise that both female production and reproductive labor is the producer of all wealth, they get an attitude. they got a problem. Socialists, Marxists, Leninists got a problem when women point out that, boo, it is not only the workers' collective labor, it is in addition female reproductive labor that produces all wealth on earth. She says, and must be so structured into any effective labor theory and practice. She's saying, look, we have to acknowledge this dichotomy that's never been acknowledged in this theory, that female productive and reproductive labor is the primary producer of all wealth on earth, and it must be so structured into any effective labor theory and practice. Classic revolutionary theory, long dominated by males, has been equally reluctant to consider the political primacy of female issues. The political primacy, Bob. of female issues and equally contemptuous of the idea that a revolution should be mounted on the issues of women's oppression and liberation. With the spread of the global factory and the consequent merger of women's reproductive issues with female workers' issues among a planetary, multinationally controlled workforce of primarily exploited women, these classic labor, left, and revolutionary political male attitudes and positions have got to change. In the present situation, if males do not join with women workers to fight for female reproductive, listen, if males do not join with women, oh my God, 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 somebody is going to be in their feelings and upset. Oh, 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 oh. In the present situation, if males do not join with women workers to fight for female reproductive autonomy along with workers' rights, then males have no other place to go except to join the National Guard, the SWAT teams, the goon squads, gearing up every day to help colonize and exploit their own countrywomen as slave workers and breeding machines. These are the only two options left for political men, or in a totally politicized world for all men. Why did I have a moment there? Because our ideas come from somewhere. Every idea that we have comes from somewhere. Every hardcore dogma or position that we accept and project comes from somewhere. It does not come from you. It does not come from you. It comes from your conditioning. It comes from television. It comes from years of being made to read the Bible or the Quran or the Torah. It comes from somewhere to serve a very specific purpose. And so today, we are constantly beat over the head by images and conversations and discussions completely outside of any historical context about men telling women if they don't want to have children, something is wrong with them. Men shaming and guilting women to say, bitch, in subtext, the only value that you have as a woman is to make babies. You only have one baby? The subtext, what's wrong with you? You aren't married? You don't belong to somebody? Subtext, what's wrong with you? It is so insidious, this thing that is happening as a discussion, supposedly some deep philosophical, intellectual discussion in the Black community. That is always, y'all gonna be mad, but I've been wondering for a long time, like, why the dominating idea, especially in hardcore Black power circles, is, the Black, protect the Black family, defend the Black family. But the Black family that they see in their mind's eye when they talk about protecting and defending the Black family is the man, the woman, and however many babies that they have. That's in their mind, the family that they need to protect, right? But in the same circles that I've run in, I will hear them talk about the need for polygamy because culturally that's what we did. And the women created polygamy as a response to slavery or some shit, you feel me? But it's always within the context of the exploitation of females' original labor, which is reproductive labor. It's not the thing that they say out of their mouth, but the content that does come out of their mouth is in direct alignment with that, seeing the female as a wealth-producing machine in the private hands of her father and her husband. That she no longer is an autonomous being within the collective of the extended family or the whole, with her own destiny, with her own mind, with her own sexual autonomy. No, she is in some way the possession of her father or her husband or some other male those who impregnate women on purpose to keep them trapped. That's the thing. It's still centered in this. All of our ideas, no matter how progressive they sound, baby, when we dig deep, they have an origin, and usually the origin is foul and exploitative. Not just to females, to everybody, because she goes on to say, what she go on to say? She said, if males do not join with women, all they can do is go to the police force. Because in some way or another, they're going to function like the police. That's what she's saying. She don't mean you literally going to become a cop. You're going to be functionally a cop in your relationships to women. You're going to be functionally a goon in your relationships with women. You're going to be functionally an oppressor in your relationships with women. You are going to function as the state, fulfilling the goals, ambitions, and aspirations of the state in your relationships with women. She says, so as long as governments can control female reproduction in any way, the workforce can equally be controlled. And vice versa, it will be possible for governments and global corporations to totally control populations of workers so long as they are able to control populations of females as breeding machines or non-breeding machines. No one can be free unless females are free to control our own sex and our own reproduction. If we don't control our own bodies, they are controlled by the boss. And that keeps the boss in power forever over everyone. That's where I'm going to stop. Oh, wait, that's not where I'm going to stop. Some slaves can dominate and exploit the slavery of others. Some slaves can dominate and exploit the slavery of others, the classic imperialist situation. But no one will have a chance to be ontologically free. What does it mean to be ontologically free? Free in your flesh, free in your spirit, free in your sexual ecstasy, free in your whole humanness. That's what it means to be ontologically free. So you might get the one up on the next motherfucker by dominating him, by placing yourself closer to the man, to Massa, or whoever his name is at any given time, to win yourself a little bit of comfort and liberty, but you are not free either. This is no longer the logic of feminism alone. It has expanded to become the inner logic of the multinational corporate marketplace, and consequently of the global factory structure and operations in relation to the international workforce. Listen. Barbara be going off. Barbara be going in. Barbara be going in. That's all I got for y'all tonight. I told you it was going to be 10 minutes. Here it is, an hour and 42 minutes later. But we have, baby, because I'm dismayed. This is the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave y'all alone. We stay every cycle dismayed, demoralized, confused, scared, hopeless, because we are only given 2, sometimes 3 options that assure us that one of these options is the solution to a better future and a better way and a better world. And then we become equally demoralized, dismayed, fearful, when that one that we were certain was going to represent a new way and a better future and the like, turn around and don't even waste no time in their betrayal of us, in their betrayal of the power that we yielded them by the number of our vote. Every cycle, we walk around here with our tails tucked between our legs and our heads a little bit lower than the cycle before. Because once again, we were convinced to believe that the system works. Once again, we were convinced, through music, through rap videos, through motherfucking tennis shoes, through all the cute little ways, whether it's Trump's tennis shoes or whether it was Kamala Harris's motherfucking Chuck Taylors, or whether it was Clinton's playing the motherfucking saxophone with some shades on the Arsenio Hall show. All they got to do is shuck and jive. Make some speeches, have a little flair, you feel me? We yield them the energetic power of our vote for them to turn around and predictably betray us. And we spend another season sad, demoralized, betrayed, dismayed, led astray, run amok, as Baba Malcolm would say. You feel me? Because we have not yet made the declaration that no motherfucking more. No more. We have not collectively presented to the masses of demoralized people another way, a realizable and certain future guaranteed right now by what we do. We have not done that collectively. There are some of us who are out there in the world shouting from the mountaintops about the vision of the future that we have, huh? But we are isolated individuals in our living rooms making this declaration. The difference now is the mother is sweeping through this bitch like the plague, like a secret agent. The mother is moving through this motherfucker like a goddamn virus in the goddamn system. That's what she's doing. That's what she's doing. I done had too many people tell me, too many of you say, oh my God. How? Who are you? How did I find you? Because I ain't got, listen, y'all can go on my shit right now. I ain't got a gang of followers. I don't. My shit ain't booming out of control. My shit is not triggering the goddamn algorithms. You feel me? And every time somebody finds me, they're like, yo, you're saying stuff that I've heard in my head or I felt in my spirit, or I might have even heard before, but something is different. Something is different. Baby, the mother is sweeping through this bitch like the plague. That's why you upset. That's why you dismayed. That's why your spirit is harassed. That's why your dreams is fucked the fuck up. Because the mother in her personification in this moment that we in this year that we're in this pivotal marker in human history that we are in right this moment, the mother's personification is the goddess Oya. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That discomfort that you are experiencing, that restlessness in your spirit all the time, that they stay medicating you for, motherfucker, you are not insane. The mother is harassing the hell out of you for a reason. She needs bodies through which she can execute her fucking desires on earth. She needs willing participants. She needs flesh and bone and blood to execute her will on earth. She is telling each and every one of you, there is a future that can exist. There is a future that I am guaranteeing you will exist if you comply. Yes, she is. There is a future beyond what you can imagine, where fear is removed, honey, where life abundant is assured, where love and ecstasy and passion and lust harmoniously coexist without shame and without guilt. There is a world where children can genuinely know happiness and safety and security. That world exists, and not in the way the fuck distant future. I came here to slay. That's what she's saying. I came here to slay, babe. I came here to answer your prayers. I came here to answer your grandmother's prayers. I came here to answer your mama prayers. I came here to answer your great grandmama prayers all the way back for at least 6,000 years. I have come back to answer the prayers of weeping, lamentful, woeful, abused women and their children, which is every last one of you on the goddamn planet. Yes, it is. I have come to answer your prayers. I have heard you. That's what she has said. I have heard you. Brace yourself. Brace yourself. Do not be afraid at what you witness, because I am here to lay low every institution, every organization, every ideology, every tradition, every culture, every religion that has ever oppressed you. That's what I have come here to do. I have come here to change the laws. I have come here to eradicate every institution of oppression. That's what the fuck I came on the scene to do, baby. That's what I came to do. And she said, just so you know, it is what I'm saying is I have brought my husband, Shango, with me in this radical, rebellious cause to lay way for the reemergence of the mother, the one. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, came in here to slay, bitch. It's the only reason she's here. And you know, that's why she says, brace yourself, put on your protective gear, because I love you. That's how I enter into battle. That's how I enter into every war, with a boundless, radical, unexplainable gravity of love for those children of mine for whom I did not even give birth to. I love you all so much that I want to end your suffering. But when I come on the scene, the shit be scary. So brace yourself and know that I come in love, even as I'm laying waste to every criminal, as I'm laying waste to every institution, as I am laying waste to every human being that has caused you harm, boo, especially those in positions of power. This is, baby, I came in the room with the storm, with the whisk, with the magic, with the Egun as my army. I came up in here to slay. So if you believe that the future is certain, if you believe that this certain future is one of such radical beauty and ecstasy, love unimaginable, then put on your protective gear and ride out the motherfucking storm. Watch me while I do my work. That's what she has said. That's why she is here. That's why she's here in this election year. That's why she's here in this year 2024, where she and her husband, Shango, will reconnect 2 weeks after the presidential election, November 19th of 2024. Baby, they came to slay. They came to slay. Aquarius, Shango, guarantees this radical future. But he's also the Lord of the turn up, the God of the drum, the Lord of the dance. It's like, bitch, yes, we can go to war. We can go to war. We could change the world. That's what revolution and evolution is about. But like, can we make this shit pop? Like, can we make this shit sexy? Because I ain't going, just because I'm going into war don't mean I'm going in raggedy. Don't mean I'm going in with my lip all pouted. No, I'm going in with the confidence that certainty affords me. We gonna take this shit. That's what Shango says. The victory is certain. That's what Oya says. The victory is certain. Your ancestors guarantee it. They are my army. So we can't keep playing their games. We cannot, child, attempting to stage a contest on the terms that they set. How the fuck you gonna stage a contest with the opposition based on the rules they set? How you expect to be victorious in any motherfucking thing staging some phony ass, flippant ass, lazy ass opposition based on the terms that your enemy has set? We have to think outside the box. And it has to be quick, and it has to be radical. It has to be, as in my estimation, it has to be offensive. It has to be that kind of radical. Like everything that fucks up your goddamn moralistic sensibilities, we need to take the opposing position. I talked to the women on the book club last night. This is my declaration. I think I'm going to continue to make this declaration because I know in my life as it is right now, I cannot execute what I see in my mind's eye. All I can do is continue to put it out, put it out, put it out, and make the strides towards it physically in the material world that I can, to make sure that people are still hearing, because somebody is going to come. Somebodies are going to come that have the skills, that have the know-how, that have the access, that have the vision to execute what I see in my mind's eye. All I have to do is keep articulating that. That's how the web works. That's how the fates work. Is somebody has to communicate the idea, corral the group together to execute what was abstract energy that forms as an illumination in your mind, an idea. You articulate out your mouth to communicate to the many, and they bring their skills together to execute this vision, to transform this idea into a material force. So that's what I'm gonna keep doing. I'm gonna keep articulating this vision until some of you get on board to help transform this radical idea that will be successful in staging finally some kind of ideological opposition to the madness that we stay confronted with, especially in the goddamn election year. That's what I'm gonna keep doing. Those of you who are artists, those of you who are musicians, those of you who got skills, computer skills, social media skills, whatever your skills are, they are useful. We have to materialize a response to this madness that is flooding our every area that we get information from is being flooded with goddamn orchestrated, deliberate madness for the sole purpose of instilling fear, instilling terror, instilling hopelessness, taking us away from, through drudgery, through piety and drudgery. All you can do is think about how you're going to exist in this moment. All you can think about is how you can exist in this moment. But the human beings, the human population cannot create what they cannot envision. What they cannot see in their mind's eye, they cannot produce. So I'm going to tell you what the future is. I'm going to tell you what dual and contending power looks like in the real world. I'm going to tell you what the equal and opposing position must be, what the equal and opposing strategy must look like in the real world, in the material world, as a force that can contend. That's what I'm going to tell you. Because when I say that Oya and Shango, as Pluto and Aquarius, are going to meet each other for the first time in 277 years on November 19th, 2 weeks after this bullshitting ass farce of a presidential election that's supposed to convince people that they have any kind of goddamn power outside of the inside of the electoral process. You have no power in the electoral process. 2 weeks later, November 19th, honey, I've been saying this and saying this and saying this. I'm not saying it in jest. We need to stage a contest. That contest has to be exciting. It has to be radical. It has to be offensive. My position, we were talking about it last night. My position is DC would be a great place, but I live in Los Angeles. Los Angeles houses one of the largest energetic portals in this country. One of the mapped energetic portals in this country. We could do it right up. We could do it right here, right here. You feel me? But we need to figure out how to rent one of these stadiums, one of these baseball stadiums, one of these football stadiums, some large place in the city, not out in the woods somewhere, not out, right the fuck up in the city, tapped right the fuck up into that energetic portal that sits right up under this city that our opposition has been taking advantage of to shape and distribute ideas throughout the entire world. That's why Hollywood is where it is. That's why Hollywood do what it do. It has been tapped into primordial energy in the form of this vortex since its inception, disseminating wicked ass ideas that have you running on a goddamn loop, boo, running on a loop. We need, now my personal position is that we need to hold a damn, that I have been saying up until this point that we need to hold a revival, right? For those of you who are not from the South, a revival is like a big church thing where it's based on the quote revival of the spirit. You feel me? Where where your church will have church service for 12 hours a day for a whole week. It's like a big party in the church. You there from sun up to sundown for 7 days, and everybody looks forward to the revival. With all these mega churches, you feel me? Like Joel Osteen, I think they say his Sundays, his weekly Sunday service on location is 75,000 people. Am I wrong? I think they said, yeah, it's about 75,000 people he preaches in a stadium. That's what I mean when I say dual and contending power, baby. Protest ain't cutting it no more. Energetic and political and social and economic, dual and contending power. But if this woman recognizes that it is the church, it is these religious institutions and ideology as the figurehead that controls and colludes with governments, monarchies, military states, and corporations. And I'm always talking to y'all about the wicked trident. Christianity / Catholicism, Judaism, and Buddhism, and Islam. Them the wicked trident. All Abrahamic religions. We have to stage a contest spiritually while materially working in the real world. Because what happens when you challenge old antiquated ideas? They become a material force. When you challenge old antiquated ideas in the consciousness of the many, you create a material force. Their changed ideas become changed behavior. Their changed behavior has an impact on the material world around them. This is the contest. And so we need to stage a witches revival, you feel me? A goddamn a black mass, you feel me? I'm being funny, but I'm being deadly serious. I'm being deadly serious. Because when we hear historical accounts of like the Spanish Inquisition and the Inquisition in Europe, when we hear historical accounts, we always think Inquisition white witches. That's all we think about. The Inquisition spilled over into every continent during the age of exploration. What did they call it? It's not the department. It was called the something of the Inquisition. Anyway, I can't remember. But anyway, the Inquisition spilled out into the world of color. The age of exploration, the age of the conquistadors was being executed while the witch trials were happening in Europe. That ideology they took with them to the Western Hemisphere, to Africa, to Asia. That ideology they took with them. So when I say a witch's mass, don't you know that ideology that was given birth to during the Inquisition didn't just apply to white women? They took that ideology and said anybody other than white and male are witches. That's why the methodical political destruction of natural systems of medicine in the Western Hemisphere under the Rockefellers had to happen because they still had that ideology with them. Herbs, that's witchy shit. Plant medicine, that's witchy shit. The Anipi, the sweat lodge, that's witchy shit. Everything other than white, male, and Christian at that time was a witch. So when I say a witch's mass, I mean all y'all. I mean, if you're black, you're a witch, at least from this perspective of a world dominated by white supremacy. If you other, you a witch from this perspective. If you, people call me a witch, hardcore Christians call me a witch, not because of my actual witchy practices. When they find out that I am an acupuncturist, they say acupuncture is witchcraft. So I'm a witch. You understand? You got tattoos, you're a witch. You got piercings, you're a witch. I'm not being funny. I'm telling you what's in your scripture. I'm telling you what's in the Bible that are the definers of what witchcraft. You an astrologer, you're a witch. You read palms, you're a witch. You communicate with the dead, you're a witch. You got an altar in your house and you a Buddhist, bitch, you're a witch. Now, the Roman Catholic Church is working in collusion now with Hinduism and Buddhism, but the Roman Catholic Church is what established that Buddhists were witches, the Hindus were witches, that the Maori were witches. Why did they do that? Because to dogmatize, moralize, and spiritualize oppression provided the underpinning and the justification for military assault on the rest of the world. So y'all all witches. Your abuela is a witch. Your auntie is a witch. Your mima, your big mama, she a witch. If she ever gave you herbs when you got sick when you was a kid, she a witch. If she ever laid hands on you, even though she a good Southern Christian black woman, but she got the power of laying hands, it ain't the Lord child, she a witch. She a witch. And so my position is that the event that we have to have, that in my estimation will have a spiritual impact of dual and contending power, equal and opposing effect on the consciousness of the many, is a witch's mass. Because nobody has paid for the Inquisition. Nobody has paid for 900 years of torture, of the most radical torture that has ever been seen on earth. Nobody has paid. The church ain't been made to pay. The descendants of the Inquisition, the descendants of the victims of the Inquisition, nowhere on earth. You understand? Ain't nobody been made to pay. Ain't nobody even shamed. I just read an article last night by this motherfucking priest that says we don't have to apologize for the Inquisition. Stop apologizing for the Inquisition. I can show you the article. I was like, the fuck, they getting ballsy as hell. He said, stop apologizing for the Inquisition. Because the ideology remains. It may be well covered up. It may look a little bit more progressive. The ideology remains. And it is not a moral ideology. It is an ideology of conquest. As soon as you start bringing moral questions, morality into a discussion that has always been political, it's always been economic. The Vatican is not a moral religious institution. It is an institution that governs exploitation. Period. Exclamation point. That's its only role. That's its only ambition. Same ambitions as the Holy Roman Empire. What was the ambitions? The stated known ambitions of the ancient Roman Empire. What did Caesar say? All roads lead to Rome. Rome will dominate the whole known world. That was their ambition. Was to enslave and own every square inch of the known world. Have they been successful? The Roman Catholic Church is the largest landholder on earth. The Roman Catholic Church is the largest landholder on earth. So were they successful? I see you, Solis. I see you, Abasi. The combination of militancy and celebration, that is the formula. Absolutely, yes. Yeah, yes. Yes. And that's why I said it's got to be offensive. It's got to be offensive. It's got to offend the sensibilities of people who have been conditioned to accept that morality and lack of morality is the explanation for the suffering of the planet. For those that suffer on the planet. If they're suffering, they must have done something wrong. They just need to get right with the Lord. That's your explanation for everything. That if you're depressed, that if you suffer from rage, you just need to get right with the Lord. You just need to get right with the Lord. You understand? This institution propped up and given birth to for the sole purpose of the exploitation of others. So that's what I'm saying. Now, how we gonna organize this this black mass? how we gonna organize this witches revival of 75,000 people, 100,000 people? Because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing radical people, men, women, and others, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, doing radical work in their home, doing radical work, radical rituals in their space by themselves, doing cool ass sister circles or men circles of groups of 5, or 10, 20 if you're lucky. You understand? I'm tired of it. Now, we need to say that we have a singular mission despite our differences in the personification. Our singular mission is to end the suffering of the many. And if y'all can get down with that, then y'all witches need to be y'all witches need to be teaming the fuck up with the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence to say how we going to execute this shit in less than a year. Because that's what we got. That's what we got. We got less than a year. Or y'all say, bitch, I'm coming. And I need vessels through which I can come through. And I came here to pull the shades off, pull the blinds off, pull the mask off, pull all the goddamn skeletons out the closet, lay bare every motherfucking thing. But I need compliant, enthusiastic executors of my will on earth. It is what did she say in my Medicine Woman guidebook? It is only through a well-rested and clear-minded you that I do my best work. So try to get yourself plenty of sleep and get ready to execute this goddamn mask we about to pull out. I keep laughing, but I want you to know I'm deadly serious. I'm deadly serious. How do we rent an athletic stadium? I need to know these things, and I'm not going to do the research myself. I'm not. I need to know, how do we get independent, non-corporate sponsors to sponsor such an event, such an ambitious, necessary introduction officially into the Aquarian age? Because that's what Pluto and Aquarius meeting on November 19th means. That's what it represents, is our official identifiable entry into the Aquarian age. Like, bitch, that's it. That's the moment. That's the mark. Now, how do we welcome in the age? What is the energy that we will enter into this age? Will we enter into will we enter into this? Will we enter into this? Oh my God. Will we enter into this age lamentful, woeful, overcome by fear and disappointment? Because either way, if y'all niggas go out and vote for Biden, or if y'all motherfuckers go out and vote for Trump, it's equally disappointing, it's equally concerning, it's equally catastrophic. It's equally catastrophic. Now, how are we going to bring in the new age? How are we going to welcome the new age? What is the energy that we will possess that challenges the energy that we will be exiting out of? Our exit out of the Piscean age, our exit out of the age of duplicity, the age of duality, the age of secrets, the age of exploitation, the age of white supremacy, as represented by God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. How do we lay permanently to rest all the ails of the last age and enter into the new age with a celebratory, victorious spirit? How do we do that? To challenge everything of the old age, to burn away every idea malignant from the old age, keep what's useful, and lay to waste, lay to rest, put in a deep ass hole and salt the motherfucking hole so can't shit ever grow from it. All of that shit from the past that we do not want to see enter into the future. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a fucking black mass, a witch's revival. To challenge everything of the past that has been responsible for the despair of the many. To challenge offensively, radically, bodaciously everything that has caused harm to humans in the past. Every idea, every ritual, every culture, every motherfucking tradition. What is going to be the new tradition of the new age? What is going to be the new culture of the new age? This is it. We've been in this shit for 2 years. I've been talking to y'all for 2 years about this period that we are in, where Oya has come come on the scene, child with a silver platter in her hand to guarantee the fulfillment of every prayer and wish we have ever made in despair. I got you. And all the homies is with me. This perfect alignment of all the planets guaranteeing that what I say is certain. Guaranteeing that what I say is certain. You understand? But we have to be the executors of that certain future. And we have to do that shit courageously, confidently, audaciously, offensively. We have to have our mouths full of curse words. I'm telling you, we got to make this shit have flair. We need old people, ancient old people. We need old people. We need kids. We need babies. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Who will the new us be? Collectively and individually. Who will the new us be when we make this official transition into the new age on November 19th? Just telling you what it is. I'm just telling you what it is. You can take it or you can leave it. I'm telling you what it is. I've spent thousands of fucking hours over the last 4 years attempting to explain in a non-weird, non-hippie-esque way what we are entering into. What does it mean politically? What does it mean socially? What does it mean in our health, in our body, in our ability to evolve past the quagmire and madness that's been imposed on us? What does it mean for the so-called working class? What does it mean for the redistribution of wealth that we have created and generated and have had no access to? What does it mean for the evolution of human consciousness as a singular whole? What does it mean for us to evolve as a whole? Can we evolve? Can we have radical evolution without the many? We keep talking about some talented 10th or the few are called or whatever. Many are called, but few ain't. No. This ideology, the mother's spirit, the mother's religion, the original religion of that dance between the mother and the one that grows within her, that's the original religion. She does not care when she looks down and feels the quickening of spirit in her body. That is you. She don't look at her belly and say, if I have a boy, I'm going to be mad. Now, y'all say that now because y'all conditioned, but that's not in the original religion. She recognized the magic of the moment. And she said, yes, I am open to allow an idea to become a material force through me. To allow the potentialities of the entire universe to be made a consolidated material force with a personal destiny through me. That is who you are. You possess within your body all the potentialities of the entire universe. That is what your mother gave you. This is the first religion, is the dance between mother and unknown spirit who has petitioned her to live, has asked of her, can I live through you? You understand? So, yeah. We got to make it plain. We got to make it sexy. We got to make it dynamic. We have to stage a radical contest with the whole thing, with the religious dogmas, with the fucking corporations, with the military government. That's what this can do. Even while we're partying, even while it appears from the outside to just be a fucking concert or whatever. That's the call. That is the official call. Who is going to heed the call of our mother, Oya / Pluto / whoever your deity who aligns with her is from your culture? Pluto is in the building, bitch. And she ain't going nowhere no time soon. So Pluto is in the building, whoever you call her. Yeah, I know y'all some call her Hades. Whatever. You understand? She is bringing the divine feminine energy into the room. And she is representing the epitome of that version of the mother to y'all refuse to acknowledge, you refuse to show love to. Honey, she has got on her mask, she has got on her skirt of 9 colors, she has got her scribe in one hand and her whip in the other, baby, coming to slay. She ain't in her big mama personification right now, baby. She ain't in her big squishy belly goddess, just love, 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 love. That ain't the phase she in, baby. She say, I still love you, but now I came to slay. I came to clean house. This shit is decadent. It's a muck. It's run amok. And in order to save you, I have to run through this bitch like the plague. That's what I came to do. That's what I came to do. You understand? And I'm here for it. I love it. I love her for it. I love her for it. So that's what I got for y'all tonight. I don't know why. On this March 1st, maybe that's it. You feel me? But that's what I got for you. So email me if you are interested in helping me to facilitate in the material world this idea of dual and contending power, of equal and opposing response to oppression. Then email me at releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. 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 Put in the subject header something about the new age, you feel me? I don't know. Put party, put black mass, put witches revival in the subject header so I know exactly why you're reaching out to me. But I want to be the executor of my mother's will. Put witches revival in the subject header. Releaseheartcenter@gmail.com. Tell me what your skills are. Tell me how you visualize seeing yourself participating in the execution of this most radical idea. Tell me that. And then let's go ahead and start having committee meetings around this shit. It's already March 1st. So we got what, 9 months? Not even. We got 8 months to execute this thing. And it is absolutely realizable in 8 months. Okay? So that's it. My name is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. I am the founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And I will see you again. See you all again tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I need to work. Like I gotta work. I gotta pull like a 16-hour shift tomorrow. It's like that. So it won't be until Monday. I can guarantee you. It won't. I have to work all weekend. I've got to at least work 36 hours this weekend. So I will, something like that. I will be back Monday. Monday, when I come back, I will re-begin or re-continue the reading of the parable of the sower, which is right in alignment with so much that's happening right now, with so much that's happening in us individually. I mean, the parable of the sower is about a 14-year-old girl who has a vision in this post-apocalyptic LA about how she's going to create a new religion. What are the fucking odds? And I've never read this book. The parable of the sower. So we'll continue the reading of the parable of the sower on Monday. In the meantime, I want to wish you a magical, wonderful, well-fed, well-imbibed weekend full of orgasms, if that is your desire. And I will see you all again on Monday. Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you, Solis. I concur.